D&D number 10, Circle of Life in Jesus' Name, Part 2, Chapter 16. It's still September 19th, Thursday afternoon, Keno Estate, Crystal Cove, California. Jordan sat in front of Grandmaster Keno's desk, looking up into his handsome face, taking comfort in his smile, which was always so kind and compassionate. "I see you're feeling a little better, at least physically," he said. She smiled. "Yes, sir. I'm sorry for going off the deep end like that. I don't really know what happened. I was just going to have one little drink, but one led to another and another." He nodded. "I know how it goes. And it didn't help that, more than likely, someone spiked your drink." "Yeah, but who? And why?" "Well, Jordan, the why is obvious. The young man was talking about you being a virgin. I believe he intended to change that." Her face reddened. "How do you know that I'm you know?" "Sorry. Agent Trout could hear what others around you were saying. That's how we know he was talking about your virginity. And when young Eric thought you may have been drugged, his mother called Jeffy to ask how to treat you, and then Jeffy and I consulted. In our family, we all communicate as much as possible on a regular basis. Communication is the key to good relationships. I'm sorry if I've embarrassed you." "Oh, no, that's okay. I just feel so ashamed." "What makes you feel that way?" She shrugged. "I don't know. It's all so confusing." "Well, let's figure this out. What do you think you did wrong that would make you ashamed?" "Well, I went to a frat party intending to drink, though I'm underage." Eric nodded. "Going to a party, frat or not, is not wrong. You were invited. You were actually guilted into it by your roommate, but that's another issue we'll talk about. So going to the party was not wrong. The drinking was, and I don't need to dwell on that because you already are remorseful about that. You know better. Don't do it anymore. Enough said. The real question is, why did you intend to drink? Just for the fun of it? For the buzz? Or something else?" She looked down as she thought. I guess I was feeling sorry for myself." "About what?" "Well, Jackie had me convinced that 3 couldn't possibly have any real feelings for me. That, like, where I come from, the life I'm used to, it wouldn't jive well with what 3 is used to, and he couldn't be interested in someone so plain and simple as me. He was born rich and privileged and spoiled, and I eat ramen noodles for dinner, and..." She trailed off. "You said Jackie had you convinced, like it was past tense, but it sounds to me that you might still feel that way." She looked up surprised and blinked. I don't know what I feel." "Yes, you do. Say it." Am I back to thinking that I don't deserve someone as wonderful as Eric?" "That's what it sounds like to me." "I'm sorry. I know we've already covered this subject." Eric chuckled. "Well, Jordan, sometimes it takes some reinforcement to really integrate something, so don't apologize." She nodded. "Let me help you with some reinforcements. My wife and I are happily married and very much in love. When I met her, I was financially very well off, halfway to my first billion, while she was struggling to keep gas in her car and working 2 jobs. Sound familiar?" Jordan nodded again, her eyes wide with surprise. "When Shelley first came to this house, she told me she couldn't even conceive living this way. Her exact words." I feel the same way," Jordan said. He smiled at her. "Shelley worked hard all her life. She struggled to keep a roof over her kid's head and food on the table. She cleaned other people's homes along with working a full-time job. On top of that, she was taking Taekwondo classes at a local YMCA to try to better herself and to try to empower herself because she'd been sexually assaulted and was struggling with dealing with the aftermath of that." "Oh, wow. I didn't know that." "If she hadn't stepped up to take martial arts class, I never would have met her. But us meeting was part of God's plan, and it happened perfectly. Shelley's lack of money was what made her strong. She was not spoiled or pampered. She was sweet and kind and took nothing for granted. She worked hard. She was full of love and compassion. She was smart and funny. She was perfect." Jordan smiled. She is a really sweet lady. She's the best. And Jordan, the qualities I saw in her are the same qualities I see in you. Jordan looked down. And I know young Eric sees those same qualities. His interest in you is because he sees you for who you are. He doesn't feel sorry for you. He sees an unspoiled, strong, powerful young woman, one who's been traumatized, just like my Shelley had been, yes, but that doesn't make you less in his eyes. And you come from humble beginnings. All of that makes you more in his eyes. He thinks you are remarkable. He admires you. He respects you. But I feel so ashamed that I broke down last Sunday when my stepfather accosted me. I totally broke down. How weak is that? And then I had to be rescued from a stupid frat party. Eric must think I'm a total loser. Well, you broke down from trauma that you'd never addressed. No one can fault you for that. Are you worried that Eric seeing you be frightened will make you less in his eyes? Maybe, he smiled. Well, it doesn't. Jordan, men, real men, have an innate need to take care of and protect women. And there's nothing wrong with you stirring up that need in him. He doesn't see you as less. He knows, and you should know, that people don't go through life on a steady, calm stream. The waters get rough. The waves swell and crash. We have ups and downs, some small and some huge. These things don't make us less. These things make us strong. They're good for us. You handled yourself well when your would-be rapist accosted you again. You stood up to him, and I'm proud of you. And young Eric is proud of you. He told me so. He did? Yes. Like I said, our family communicates on a regular basis. I encourage it. She smiled. Now, before we adjourn, I'd like to correct something you said Jackie told you. She said that young Eric was spoiled. Do you believe that? Well, not really. He seems like a sweet, humble guy, but, I mean, he is rich, right? And he is privileged, right? Grandmaster Keno nodded. He is blessed, yes. He has always had what he needed, though not always what he wanted. His father has been very careful to make sure that privilege is earned in some way, and that whims are not indulged. He could be spoiled. Many people who are blessed with so much can be. Yet, in the Bible it says, everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded. And from the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked. So, along with the privilege young Eric has received, a great burden has been placed on his back. It also says in the Bible that the love of money is the root of all evil, and it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter into heaven. Another huge burden. Young Eric does not love money. He doesn't live for money. He lives to do God's will. He lives to serve. Our whole family believes that. Live to serve. We have been blessed with much, and we carry a great burden to make sure we don't get caught up in the pleasures of the world. If we lost it all tomorrow, we would still strive to serve God's children and to do God's will and to carry whatever cross we must bear. Young Eric wakes early in the morning. He prays. He meditates. He works out. He trains. He takes care of his own business. He takes care of family business, and then he takes care of anyone God puts in his path. He works until he falls into bed exhausted. Then he gets up the next morning and he does it again. Does that sound like someone who was spoiled? Jordan shook her head. No, it sounds like the perfect man. Grandmaster Keno laughed. Well, he's not perfect. There was only one perfect man. Still, we all strive to be as close to perfect as possible. We have to be careful to set a good example. We can't afford to preach one thing and live another way. We cannot be hypocritical. We must walk a very straight line. Jordan nodded. Much as expected, she quoted. Right. For example, I guess you've heard of the miracle that just occurred in our lives just a few weeks ago. I've spoken with Jesus. He says there's more for me to do here. He gave me my life back. What will I do with that? Take a vacation? Sleep until I'm not sleepy anymore? She smiled. No. You take time to counsel a foolish young girl. He chuckled. A smart young lady, completely worthy of my time. Her eyes moistened. Are you allowed to take any time for yourself? He nodded. Of course. I take my rest in joyful things. He glanced at the large clock on the wall. Like in a few minutes, we're going to pack up my beautiful children and go see Taylor play ball. And maybe when I'm there, I'll find someone I can serve. This past Tuesday, while I was at Bayside High, I had a young man approach me and ask me to speak a few words on a video for him to take to his mother who was in a car accident and is now paralyzed. She used to take classes at one of our studios. She was a yellow belt. So I did. And I got her contact information, and I'll make an appointment to go see her, because that's how we stay in service. Oh, that's beautiful. And will you go to all of Taylor's games? Well, I'll try. It's her senior year. It's the only time she's played a sport. It's important to her, and she's important to me, and I need to show that and be in service to her. I love that. You know, I think I'm not just in love with 3. I'm in love with your whole family. Her eyes went wide. Oh, I didn't mean to say that. It just popped out. He smiled, like it wasn't completely obvious. She blushed. Well, I guess we better get going, he said. And by the way, I'd like you to get me your softball schedule. We'll be watching you too, Miss Jordan Brooks. I will, and I'd be so very honored to have you come watch me play. New scene. It's still September 19th. It's Thursday evening. Jordan walked slowly out to 3's car as they left the Casa Latina. She started to get in, but he grabbed her arm and pulled her to him, leaning her against the car. She looked down at his strong hand holding her arm, and he let go. Maybe we should talk a minute. She nodded. Okay. First, you're awfully quiet. Are you feeling okay? She nodded. I'm fine. Are you angry with me? No, why would you say that? Because of the look you gave me just now when I grabbed your arm. She smiled. Oh, sorry. It just made me think about Sunday when Peter grabbed my arm and pulled me out of the car. Well, I wasn't trying to be rough with you. I just wanted to be close to you. I know that. It was just a flash, no big deal, and it reminded me of Taylor right before her game started. His brow creased. What about Taylor? Well, right before the game, Lance, the quarterback guy, he walked up and grabbed her arm to get her attention. Yes, I know. She smiled. Oh, I know you know. I looked around at your family, to see if anyone was going to do anything. And you, your dad, and Grandmaster Keno, and Agent Ward, and Cam were all standing like at attention, all very still, all watching intently. Eric shrugged, alert and ready. It was cool, that's all. I felt so much, I don't know, power, I guess. You guys are all so very powerful. Young Eric ran one finger up her arm to her shoulder, to her cheek. That should make you feel ultra powerful then, because you can control me with just a look. She giggled. Right. I was relieved, though, that Lance was actually apologizing to Taylor. I was watching her face very carefully, very closely. When she smiled and offered her hand to him, I breathed a sigh of relief. Yes, you all did, Jordan said. It was kind of cute. And then, when he came over to your dad and apologized, that took guts. Eric smiled. Yeah, it did. Good for him. So is that what you've been thinking about? Well, not just that. I really enjoyed watching Taylor play. She's a force to be reckoned with, and I'm glad they won, though it seemed like an easy win. And I was glad that your mom live-streamed it. For Gabe. He's really in love with her. Shelley nodded. He seems to be. Eric nodded. He seems to be. She sighed. And I've been thinking about things your grandfather and I discussed today, which will remain private. Okay, I understand. So why did you stop me from getting in the car? Well, I need to know our plans, and I have a suggestion. Our plans? Yes, like, where am I taking you? Do you need to go back to your apartment, and would you consider staying with me for the weekend? Her mouth dropped open. Oh, well, I was going to go home on Saturday and Sunday and spend some time with my brother and sister and mom, see if they need anything. Okay. Well, let me throw this out. You were going to come see me train tomorrow, right? Yes. So stay the night tonight and come spend the whole day with me tomorrow. I know it may be boring just watching me train, but you could participate a little and learn some stuff at the same time. There's going to be a group of Keno black belts come in, and they are going to work with me, and Granddad is going to use my training to teach them, so that may be interesting. And then you can spend the night again, and we can go together to see your family. Have the dinner your mom said she'd cook me, maybe. Take the kids to the park. Then go to JoJo's game. Maybe your brother and sister would like to come to the game. And then you could spend the night again, and you could come to church with us on Sunday. And maybe your family could come too. Or maybe if they don't want to, they could come to Sunday dinner at our house. I mean, I know this is last minute, but it sounds like it can be a lot of fun. And Jamie would love to meet my father, right? Yes, he would. And my mother would love to meet your mother. Well, that sounds like you're considering it. I mean, I don't see a good reason to turn it down, except I need to get some clothes for my apartment, and I'll need to call my mother and see if she had any plans. Sometimes she caters for people. So call her, Eric said excitedly. Jordan smiled and pulled out her phone and called her mother. The phone rang 5 times before it was answered. Hello? Jordan drew a sharp breath. What are you doing answering my mother's phone? Your mother is busy doing up the dinner dishes and her hands are wet. She asked me to grab it. What do you want? Put her on the phone. What do you want? I want to speak to my mother now. Put her on the phone, she yelled. Young Eric motioned for her to give him the phone. She shook her head and he frowned at her. She did, however, put the phone on speaker. You tell my mother right now that it's me who called and put her on the phone. You don't give me orders, little girl. Mr. Perez, young Eric said sternly, I suggest you put the phone down, go get Mrs. Perez, and tell her that Jordan wants to speak with her. Because if I have to drive down to the house so that Jordan can speak with her mother, there's going to be hell to pay. Are you threatening me, you little punk? Yes. There were several moments of silence on the other end. Fine, I'll put her on, but let me tell you something, you rich, spoiled little punk. One day, we're going to come face to face, and you're not going to think you're so high and mighty then. Eric smiled. I look forward to it. Eric nodded at Jordan. Mute the phone. She did. Don't tell your mom our plans yet. Just talk to her and keep her on the phone as long as possible. I'll explain in a minute. Jordan nodded, took the phone off mute. Mom? Yes. Hi. Well, young Eric pulled his phone and called Jason. What's up, Eric? Do you have any agents in the area of Jordan's mother's house or some police friends you can call? Because if you go right now, Peter Perez is there. I'm on it. Jason hung up. Eric put his phone away and listened to Jordan talk to her mother. Well, actually, Mom, I called because I have to ask you about some plans I'm making, but I don't want to talk to you about them when that POS is standing there listening to your call. And I know he is, Mom, because I know him, and I know you're intimidated by him, and I really wish you didn't have to even deal with him. She stopped, closing her eyes in frustration as she listened to her mother defend the man who tried to rape her own daughter. He hasn't changed, Mom. He isn't sorry. He still wants to do what he intended that day. He wants to do worse than that. He wants to hurt me, Mom. I know. I just know that's how. Listen to me. Last Sunday when I left, he was waiting for me. No, I'm not mistaken. No, he didn't leave. He just moved the car. Because he grabbed me, Mom, and he threatened me. Because I didn't want to worry you about it because you have enough to worry about. Look, I know he's standing right there listening. Call me back when he leaves. Mom, do you hear me? Call me back when he leaves. And don't let him in again. I mean it. Okay, call me back. She ended the call and looked slowly up at Eric. He pulled her to him and held her close, and she was trembling. Okay, babe, you're okay. Deep breath. Good. He put his hands on either side of her head. Father, give her healing and peace in Jesus' mighty name. Almost immediately, her body stopped shaking and she relaxed. She looked up at him, tears in her eyes. He smiled at her. Let's head to your apartment to get what you need while we wait for your mother to call you back. She nodded. 15 minutes later, it was Jason who called young Eric. Accept call, Eric said. Did you get him? No, I sent the Hillcrest police. They were the closest. They got there pretty fast, but he was gone. Asked Jordan about the description of the car he was driving again. Is she sure about the make and model? Jordan nodded. I'm not that sure. I'm sorry. It was a strange color, almost kind of pink and tan. I'm pretty sure it was a Chevrolet because of the symbol. Off to the right, I thought it said Nova, but yeah, I could be wrong. There is no car registered in his name, so it has to be he's borrowing it from someone. Any guess who that might be? No, I have no idea who would lend him their car. I don't know any of his friends. Surprised he has any. Well, if only we could get a tag number. There are close to 20,000 Novas registered in California. Oh my goodness, I just remembered, Jordan said. When he was there last Sunday, I took a picture of his car, thinking I could use it to prove that he was there threatening me. Could you shoot that to Eric, please, and he'll send it to me? Yes, sir, I'll do it right now. Sorry, I forgot. No worries, Jordan. Our brains do funny things during traumatic times. I'm hanging up. You kids be safe. Send that pic. Jordan sent the pic just before her mother called her. Young Eric listened as Jordan made plans for the weekend with her mother, and then at the end of the conversation, she softly reprimanded her mother for not standing up to Peter Perez. Her sweet mother apologized. It was obvious to Eric that she was very afraid of the man, and that she was used to trying to please people and placate people, including him and including Jordan. He thought he might share that information with his grandfather to see how that situation could be handled and healed. Young Eric forwarded the picture to Jason. They went to Jordan's apartment intending to gather some clothing for the weekend, but when they went in, her roommates were there. Colton was simply glad Jordan was okay and hugged her. Oh, Jordan, when Coach told us what happened to you, I was so worried. Jackie was not quite so warm. You left me at that party, Jackie accused, and then I come home and find you've gone to stay at your rich boyfriend's house. How is that supposed to make me feel? Jordan's silence and look of puzzlement on her face was what made Eric step in. You mean you're glad she's okay, and you wonder who would put something in her drink, and you're sorry that you convinced her to go to a party where someone planned on getting her drunk enough to give up her virginity without a fight. I'm sure that's what you meant to say, right? Jackie stood glaring at him, then suddenly her face softened. I am sorry that you had a bad night, Jordy. Really, I am. Jordan nodded. It's over. I'm over it. But I am wondering, Jackie, who told those boys that I'm a virgin? How did they know? Jackie looked astounded. You don't think I did, do you? You think I set you up? Well, it crossed my mind because just a little earlier I told you that I was a virgin. And I told you I wasn't surprised, and I can't believe you think I'd actually set you up to what? To be raped by a bunch of frat boys? Did you? No. Gosh, Jordan, I may not be the greatest friend, mostly because I'm all about me, but I wouldn't do that, and I'm really hurt that you would think that. I wanted to get close to Alan Cooper, and I didn't want to go alone, and I accomplished that. At my expense. You didn't want to go alone, and then you had no qualms leaving me alone while you went to do your thing with Alan Cooper. Did you have any idea that I was incapacitated? I knew you were drunk. I figured you could take care of yourself. I mean, you are a big, strong athlete, right? Jordan just shook her head. Look, Jordy, I'm sorry. I really am. I didn't know you'd been drugged. I didn't have anything to do with it. I hope we can get past this. Jordan sighed. It's fine, Jackie. Anyway, I'm here to get some things because I'm staying the weekend with 3. She left Eric in the living room and went to her room. Jackie smiled at him. He sighed. There was nothing more to say. She was a narcissist and had said so herself a moment ago. She's all about me. Strangely, he believed her. He didn't think she set Jordan up. Why would she? What would she get out of it? And if she didn't, who did? It could be that they saw a beautiful girl and decided to go after her, but they knew she was a virgin. It was a puzzle. It didn't take Jordan long to gather what she needed for the weekend. Once they were back in the car, Eric was quiet as he milled some things around in his head, and finally he spoke, but not to Jordan. Call Uncle Joey. Hey, Guy, Joey said. What you got? Hey, Uncle Joey, listen. We won't need Agent Trout until Monday morning after Jordan's practice. She's going to stay the weekend with me, and before you say anything, she's in the car with me. Joey chuckled. Got it. Hey, Good trying, Peter Perez. We were so close. From what Mrs. Perez told the police, they missed him by about 5 minutes. And now that we have a tag number, they're already headed out to the registered address. Fingers crossed. Now, Eric, I have to say, for the future, if Jordan had told her mother what happened, her mother could have told the police when she made the dinner appointment with Perez, and they would have him. Maybe. Except if Mrs. Perez had known that he accosted Jordan, she may not have made the appointment. Maybe not, but we could have asked her to make an appointment if he called her. Just remember, communication is the key. Yes, sir. The call ended, and immediately Eric called his mother. Hey, honey, you on your way back? Yes, ma'am. So there's been a change of plans. Jordan's going to stay the weekend. On Saturday, we're going to go spend some time with her mother and siblings. Jordan's mom is going to feed us an early dinner. Then they're all coming to see JoJo's game, so we need to use some of the extra tickets. Even Jordan's mom? Yes, is that okay? Oh, yes, of course. I think that's awesome that she wants to come. Good, and then they are all going to stay the night at our house and go to church with us on Sunday. Wonderful. Yep, and then I invited everyone to stay for Sunday dinner. Oh, well, that's no problem, but it will be at Grandma's house, not ours. Okay. Will you let Grandma know? I'll be happy to do that. It sounds like an interesting weekend. Yep, I'm pretty happy about it. I bet. Bye, honey. See you soon. Drive safe. Bye, Mom. He smiled and glanced at Jordan. Okay, I think we've got it all planned. Jordan nodded. Are you okay? Yes, I'm just thinking about something. What's that? Well, yesterday, about this time, so about 24 hours ago, in a drunken stupor, I told you I loved you. He smiled. I thought you didn't remember that. I didn't, but you told me I did. Oh, yeah, that's right. And then you told me you're glad I said it because you love me too. He nodded. I did say that, and I meant it. And in the past 24 hours, you haven't kissed me one time, except maybe on the cheek. I haven't? Nope, and it seems like when two people tell each other that they love each other for the first time, there should be like a huge makeout session at the very least. He nodded. It does seem that way. He turned on his blinker, turned off the highway, pulled into a gas station around the side of the building, put the car in park, leaned over the center console, and kissed her, long and slow and sensual. Jordan sighed. He finally pulled away and smiled at her. Is that better? She shook her head. He put his arm around her and pulled her to him and kissed her hard. When he let go, he shook his head. Nope, this is not comfortable. He got out of the car, came to her side, pulled her out of the car, leaned her against the door, pinned her there with the length of his body, and kissed her deeply. She moaned. He did too. He pulled away and gazed into her beautiful gray eyes and dove right back in. Breathing hard now, he forced himself to back away. He opened her car door. And that'll have to hold us for a few minutes because making out at night in a suburb of Los Angeles on the side of a gas station is kind of a dangerous situation. And I don't like the idea that I put us in a dangerous situation. Maybe you can sneak into my room tonight and wake me up. She giggled as she got back in the car. Maybe you can sneak into mine. New scene. It's September 20th, very early Saturday morning, South Keno Estate, Crystal Cove, California. Young Eric's phone alarm rang, and he quickly shut it off. The beautiful creature sleeping beside him stirred. He turned back to her and nuzzled her neck, and she sighed. He'd come to her room. It didn't seem gentlemanly to make her come to him. That's how he rationalized it anyway. She turned to face him. What time is it? 5. Why is your alarm set for 5? Because I have to be showered and dressed and proteined and on the beach with my family by 6. Sucks for you, she murmured. He chuckled. Nah, it doesn't suck. It's awesome. It's another day I get to try to get it right. She raised her head. Get what right? Life. Can I do better than yesterday? What can I do today to help someone? But today is so much more exciting than usual because I get to spend it with you. She smiled up at him and he kissed her gently. So, good morning, Jordan. Good morning. This is wonderful, isn't it? What? Waking up next to each other, knowing we can stay together all day. Yes, it is. It's absolutely wonderful. So do you think your family would let me crash your beach party this morning? He rose up. Wow. Yes, of course. Would you like to join us? Yes, I think I'd like to experience your life for a day. Try to participate in any way I can. Man, Jordan, I just fell in love with you all over again. She smiled. Ditto. So what's the first thing you're going to do? Well, I'm going to take a quick shower, dress in clothes to exercise, then kneel down and pray before I leave my room. But, we could get dressed and I'll come back in here and we could pray together. That sounds great. Well, let's get a move on, she said. First things first. He rolled on top of her, pinned her arms above her head, and kissed her soundly. Okay, see you in 15. She gasped. 15? She rolled out of bed. Get out of here. Laughing, he left the room. His father was in the hall, just coming out of Taylor's room. Oh, hey, Dad. Good morning. Ricky nodded. Good morning, son. He paused and sighed. You know, you're playing with fire. Young Eric nodded. Yes, sir, but nothing happened. Ricky smiled. Nothing, huh? Eric grinned and shrugged. Is Taylor okay? Yes, I just wanted to make sure she was getting up. He headed toward the stairs. See you on the beach. Eric dashed into his room, showered, dressed, made his bed, and made his way back to Jordan. She was just putting on her shoes. He smiled at her. Her hair was wet, her face shone, her bed was made. Jordan stood and came to him. He took her hands in his. You smell good, he said. You do too. So what now? How do you do this? He knelt down on the plush gray and white rug. Come kneel here in front of me so I can hold your hands while we pray. She knelt down, held her hands out to him. She didn't think he knew it, but she was always amazed at how powerful he is. So strong, so confident. Kneeling in front of him, his strong hands holding hers. It was hard to describe it. Maybe it was like a oneness. She would never find this feeling with another guy. She was sure of that. She looked into his eyes. He looked into her eyes. I'll say the prayer unless you want to. You say it, she said immediately. He smiled and closed his eyes. Dear Father, wow, Father, I feel so close to you this morning. So Jordan and I are kneeling before you today, first to thank you for another day to serve you in some way, and for another day to love each other. Father, thank you for bringing us together. I'm so grateful for Jordan. I think she feels grateful for me too. I do, she whispered. He smiled. So, Father, we are so blessed, and we just want to thank you for all that we have. We want to do your will today. We want to serve you today. So please place in front of us anything you want us to do or anyone you want us to help. We love you. Jordan may not know it yet, so I pray you will touch her today and help us both to build a closer relationship to you. Jesus, we're so grateful for you, and we love you too. Please stay by our side this day and lead us and guide us. Help us to be strong, we pray in Jesus' name, amen. He opened his eyes. She was staring at him. That was beautiful, she said softly. Well, when Jesus touches your heart, it's always a beautiful thing. He stood and helped her up. We got to go. I have to get a protein shake in me before I hit the beach. They ran downstairs, made a giant smoothie filled with protein and vitamins and supplements and raw milk and raw honey and free-range eggs, and everything has to be of high vibration, he explained to her. What you put in your body can help you to be closer to God. Jordan raised her eyebrows. You are amazing, 3, he smiled. I'm glad you said that because I thought you might just think I'm weird. I could think that, but obviously one only has to look at your family and it starts to make you see that the formula you guys are using actually works. It seems to help, and Jeffy's a big part of that. Exactly why I'm studying her protocols. Get that smoothie down. We have to be on the beach in 3 minutes. Taylor came rushing into the kitchen. Hey, good morning, you two. Jordan, are you coming down to the beach with us? Jordan nodded as she swallowed a mouthful of her drink. So awesome. Eric, can I have a swallow of your smoothie? I'm running late. He handed her his glass. She took several swallows, handed it back. He finished it off. Let's go. The 3 headed down to the beach. Ricky Keno and Brianna Adams stood holding hands and standing face to face, speaking softly to each other. They both turned as the kids joined them. Good morning, Bree said. Jordan, so nice to have you join us. Well, family, enjoy yourselves. She started back to the house. Young Eric smiled at the puzzled look on Jordan's face. She doesn't do martial arts, he explained. Why not? She's never been interested. Well, I find that fascinating that the wife of Ricky Keno isn't interested in the martial arts. Eric laughed. Jordan, just do your best to imitate today, Ricky said. If you can't keep up, there's no shame in taking a rest. Jordan nodded, wondering what they were about to do. Well, it started out with some beautiful yoga type stretching, then moved into a slow moving Tai Chi. She'd seen that before in movies. Then it got harder, beginning with forms and then practicing punches and kicks. Ricky helped her as he told the others what to do. After what seemed like hundreds of kicks, she was breathing hard, but she refused to drop out. She was pouring sweat. Her side hurt. She looked over at Three and Taylor, and they didn't seem to even be breathing heavy. Finally, they all ran several wind sprints. They stood together in a circle while Ricky Keno prayed over his family, and as soon as it was over, Jordan sank to the ground. Young Eric came to her and knelt in front of her. You okay? She couldn't speak but nodded her head. Okay, good, because we got to go. I'm due at the studio in 30 minutes. I got to go get ready for school, Taylor said as she approached. She hugged Jordan. It's so awesome having you here. It's kind of like having a sister. Have a good day at school, Jordan said breathlessly. Eric pulled Jordan to her feet. Are you going to make it? She nodded. You people don't mess around, do you? He laughed. Sure we do. Or have you already forgotten last night? She giggled. And that is the end of chapter 16. And, boop.